Moving into Wrath, we will see many changes across the board for WoW, new raids, dungeons, arenas, classes, talents, professions, but also racial changes. I thought it would be handy to have all the information in one place on one video, so whether you're planning on sticking with your main, re-rolling, or just for playing alts, you have an idea of what the changes will be, as well as some idea of which race will be the best fit for certain classes. But before we do that, a quick word from today's sponsor. Friends and Dragons is a free-to-play strategy-based mobile RPG on both Android and iOS. It combines elements from a number of genres together to create a unique experience with hero collection, strategic movement, character placement, and puzzle-based gameplay. What sets Friends and Dragons apart is the character movement system. Instead of just controlling one hero at once, you have the option to affect the positioning of all your heroes at the same time. You do this by moving heroes through one another, making them flip where they currently are, and landing them on a whole new tile. This allows for a considerably wider array of strategies to be used in order to figure out what the best course of action to win is. Friends and Dragons covers RPG aspects you may be familiar with by allowing you to equip your heroes with various items, as well as upgrading their skills to increase their battlefield performance. There is a huge cast of 150 plus heroes, so you have the ability to customize your party to best suit any situation that you are going into. There are also special events you'll have access to as soon as you complete the tutorial. One of these is Chase the Dragon, where you fight through increasingly difficult dungeons for a big reward at the end. Download Friends and Dragons from my links or scan the QR code on the screen to get a special bonus of 1 free summon, daily energy potions, gold for free, and an exclusive offer, all available from my links below. Sponsors do help the channel considerably, so if you did want to try something new when not at the computer, why not give Friends and Dragons a go? Many thanks to Friends and Dragons for the sponsor. Let's talk WoW. Alliance first. Human. Diplomacy is still 10% bonus reputation, which is unchanged. There is less need for reputations to grind than there was in TBC. Heroic dungeons don't need revered, attunements, or anything like that, and whilst there are some good rewards in terms of early game epics from reps, it's kind of whatever for the most part. Still, it's a nice bonus, gets you your Sons of Hodir exalted a bit faster for the hopefully bind on account token. Perception's now a passive increase to stealth detection, which apparently comes out to increases stealth detection by 5 points equivalent to 1 level, so a bit. Essentially, you aren't going to see rogues from about 15 to 20 yards away anymore. The human spirit bonus is down from 10% to 3%. This seems like a pretty harsh nerf. It's actually more useful than it's ever been in Classic or TBC. The only human class which has really benefited so far has been Priest. Now in Wrath, a number of classes gain scaling benefits to spell power or crit from their spirit ratings, such as Molten Armor for mages or Fell Armor for warlocks. And stat numbers start to get pretty big in Wrath, so that 3% does in fact add up quite nicely, even to the point where humans begin to outscale gnomes as their best alliance caster class. Sword and Mace spec is down from 5% expertise to 3%. It's still good. Remember, this is full expertise stats, not rating, though finding expertise is much less of a problem in Wrath thanks to better itemization and dual crafting, but free stats all the same. Every Man for Himself is a 2-minute cooldown free PvP trinket, removes any loss of control effects from the caster, was very OP back in the day, largely considered a PvP racial, but certainly has uses in PvE too. Getting stunned on a tank can be a disaster, and this will always get you free. Very good racial. Dwarf next. Find treasure is still a thing, still doesn't stack with find minerals, herbs or fish. Gun spec is still 1% extra crit. A new racial mace spec, which is 5 extra expertise with maces for both 1 and 2 hands. This has always made sense and seems very fitting for dwarves. Stone form still removes all bleeds, poisons, diseases, and 10% armor for 8 seconds, same as TBC, has good niches in both PvE and PvP. Frost resistance. So all resistance based racials change in Wrath. It now reduces the chance to be hit by whatever spell school it is by 2% instead of plus 10 bonus resist. I think this is an overall buff, and this will be the case with every resist a spell school racial. In Classic and TBC, where it's a flat resist gain, spells would roll whether they would hit you, and then roll whether the spell damage is reduced against whatever your resist stat is. Whilst resists still do exist, a higher flat chance for spells to just miss in the first place seems better. Night Elves get pretty big buffs across the board actually. Wisp form is the same, extra movement speed when dead. Nature resist is 2% extra chance for spells to miss. Quickness goes from 1% dodge to 2% chance that both both melee and ranged attacks will miss. Pretty big buff on this one. Shadow Meld has been redesigned. It's now usable in combat and has a 2-minute cooldown. You can also use it to evade attacks which are in the air on the way to you, like how Rogue's Vanish works. Very versatile ability. I always enjoy playing a Night Elf because of the class-wide drop combat. It's good when you're gathering, questing, resetting, and just dodging certain spells in PvP. Night Elves also have an extra chance to resist being detected while stealthed. Gnomes overall get very few changes. Escape Artist is the same as TBC. As far as I know, in Wrath they made it so it cannot be resisted. Now, I've struggled to actually find the info to back it up. This is just going off memory. Arcane Resistance is 2% chance to avoid that spell school. Engineering spec is the same, 15 extra skill to NG. It's a great profession, so it lets you cap it out a little bit faster. Expansive Mind is still 5% bonus to intellect, not as good as it once was due to spirit scalings that humans get, still useful early game and a small benefit to casters. Draenei, often called the Space Goats, get a few changes in the expansion as well. They get Gem Cutting, which is +5 to the skill and is the same, Shadow Resistance 2%. You better believe there is a lot of shadow damage in Wrath, so it's not that bad actually. Gift of the Naru gets buffed to be much more useful, scales just better overall for everybody and is now instant cast. Still a 3-minute cooldown though. Heroic or Inspiring Presence have had their effects combined and are no longer class specific. Any Draenei class will give both 1% melee and spell hit to their party within 30 yards. Note this is a party-wide thing only, which is rare in Wrath. Usually everything is raid-wide. It's a nice buff, but it can be inconsistent due to the range limitation and needing the person to actually be alive. Horde next, Orcs first. Axe Expertise is still +5, same as TBC. Command is the same, +5% pet damage, and will now work for DKs as well. The class benefiting most from this changes in Wrath. Hunters aren't going to be BM in PvE for too long beyond perhaps some early game tier 7 fights, and that's because of their short duration. PvP will still see Beast Mastery comps early due to their explosive damage. However, both Affliction and especially Demonology locks benefit from this ratio, as do Death Knights, who can spec into having a permanent pet. Overall, very useful. Hardiness has changed to stun duration reduced by 15% instead of chance to resist. It should stack with various other effects such as Iron Will from Warrior's Talents or various meta gems. This makes Hardiness a very powerful PvP focused ratio, and due to its consistency it's arguably better than just stun resist has been in the past. Finally, Blood Fury just gets straight up buffed and now gives attack power, spell power, or both depending on your class, and there is no healing debuff applied anymore. Macro this into your cooldowns and pretty much fire and forget about it. Another very good ratio. Undead, perhaps the least change and in fact the most nerfed race moving into Wrath. They get 2% extra chance for shadow spells to miss them. Underwater breathing is the same. It's a pretty niche thing, more of a flavor of being undead. Speaking of flavor, cannibalize is also the same as it's always been. WillE the Forsaken undergoes big nerfs. The 5-second immunity portion of the spell has been removed, and the effect now shares a 45-second cooldown with similar effects, such as the PvP trinket. It's still good in certain situations, just nowhere near as good as it used to be. Doran, again a quick one to cover, very little changes here. Cultivation, bonus 15 to herbing. Nature Resist, a 2% chance for the spell school to miss. Wall Stomp is the exact same, small cast time, stuns enemies around you for 2 seconds. Endurance has been nerfed from 5% maximum health to 5% base health, meaning you'll get a few hundred extra health at level cap as a warrior, for example. Rip to big beefy health scaling. So whilst Undead and Tauren don't get a lot, Troll on the other hand, Troll get big buffs. This should be the most represented race in PvE content. Regeneration still exists and it's still just okay. Throwing and bow spec is the same 1% crit. Beast slaying is still 5% extra damage. I mean, hey, there's the Beasts of Northrend fighting Trial of the Crusader, that's something, right? A new racial, the Voodoo Shuffle, 15% reduced duration on all movement impairing effects. This is better than it sounds and should stack with other similar effects. Berserking, 3-minute cooldown, 20% attack and casting speed for 10 seconds. This is it. This is the ratio. In Classic and TBC, Berserking scaled with your current health. In Wrath, it's just a flat 20% you can macro into your rotation, which is much better because you don't need to wait for any conditional thing to happen before you activate it. Cooldowns have always done well in WoW when they're stacked as much as possible. Another 20% haste is crazy good. Really powerful ratio. Expect a lot of PvEs to go troll for Wrath of the Lich King. Finally, Blood Elf mana tap has been removed. This was mainly used to aggro things at ranged. It was okay, not a huge loss, I'd say. Arcane Turret now restores percentage mana or 15 energy or runic power depending on your class, still silences for 2 seconds in an AoE. Non-player units are also interrupted for 3 seconds so they don't just chain cast off the back of it. Silences themselves are now on the diminishing return in Wrath of the Lich King, as well as being trinketable. All the same, still a fairly good racial. Magic resist is 2% to resist any spell, which is not bad, and Arcane Affinity 10 extra enchanting skill. And that's it. So overall, I'd say the biggest winners for racial changes are on the Alliance humans and arguably Night Elves, and on the Horde trolls and orcs. At the end of the day, racials have always been a smaller bonus, and having every man for himself isn't the thing that's holding you back from Gladiator, and good players will be passing 95 plus without berserking. Still, if you did want a bit more info on racials and how they change, I hope this covered everything noteworthy and helped you decide what is right for you moving forwards. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening in. I shall see you all in the next one very soon.